Hello and welcome to Albumble, the podcast where we review albums that we might not have got round to viewing the first time round. I'm Anne.
And I'm not.
That's Andy. And we are going to peruse through some albums from the past, even if the past was last week, through our album history. I don't know.
So all albums are from the past.
Well, yes,
to some
that
extent,
is true.
aren't they?
Yes, even ones that were released last week, as I said. Now, if you listen to our first episode that we brought out a couple of weeks ago, well done, and you've come back for more. There's not going to be too much Eurovision content unless we specifically bring something Eurovision-y. Do you agree?
I think it's fair to say that I'm unlikely to bring anything Eurovision-y to the
You
party.
might bring like a Gustav album, mightn't you?
Has he released an album?
Well, no, but he probably will do.
Okay.
And he's done stuff with the Love Affair. What's it called?
Hercules and Love Affair. Yeah.
So we could do something like that one week.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I not really challenged you, but I gave you the opportunity to listen to A Different Class by Pulp. Which was originally released October 1995 by the Sheffield band Pulp, and it was their 5th studio album. So they've been around a bit by this point.
Yeah.
And released stuff afterwards as well.
Yes. Although not as much.
No. I think they peaked, without giving too much away. Maybe we agree with that or not, but at the time, this felt like their peak.
Yes. I think because obviously they went on to release This Is Hardcore after that, which aside from sort of a fairly headline-grabbing lead-out single from it, which I don't think was particularly positively received.
No.
But yeah, I mean, they were, or still are, perhaps, a band who
are they still going? I mean, I get, Jarvis is still going.
Yes.
Whether singing himself or doing stuff on the radio or...
Yeah, Jarvis has released a couple of very good songs in the past couple of years, actually, so he's, still hard at it.
But we still have their music from the past, which you can listen to.
Ah, the past.
Right. So, shall we crack on then?
Yes.
So, let's have the whole truth. So, what did you think of this album? As a whole.
As a whole, I think it is... it's two quite different stories, because there are some songs which are fully realised as what we now regard as indie disco anthems.
Yes. And
there are some other songs which feel as though they got to a point perhaps where they'd said what they wanted to say with them and didn't want to elaborate any further on that.
Okay, on purposely.
Yeah, probably, yes.
Yeah.
Because it would have been very easy to do an album of 10 pop songs.
Yes.
That then became very lightweight and very throwaway. Mm-hmm. And I think the songs that have gone on to remain popular on Radio X every 20 minutes to this day would possibly not have aged as well had they come from an album with less weight to it.
Yeah,
so.
I mean, you've got to have the light and the shade,
yes,
I guess.
Yeah.
Did you notice any particular themes or any notions?
There are obviously the very obvious open themes of teenage coming of age, anxiety, and
which I found very odd because, without being rude, Jarvis really wasn't a teenager at this point.
No, but he'd obviously decided as a lyricist that was what he wanted to write about for this album. The other thing, I noticed a couple of undercurrents as well. There's about 3 songs which sound which take a lot of cues from Western sounds, sort of spaghetti westerns, that sort of thing. And there's that sort of undercurrent running to it as well. So I think there's that's possibly used as a device to add drama to it. But no, I noted that a couple of times when I was listening through it. 'Cause I may not have properly listened to it all the way through as an album before I did for this.
No, that's why I thought it'd be interesting, because people know the songs, but when they listen to them in a particular order, they sound slightly different.
Yes, yeah.
Other themes I noticed as well is, obviously there were some acerbic wit and social commentary, which Jarvis was always very good at. He had, obviously at the time when we had Britpop and everything, you kind of had Blur and Oasis, who had their kind of niche borough that they were, and then Jarvis had that very northern, very I don't want to use this word in a bad way, but like very basic. There was no frills. No, it wasn't it was clever, but not in a.
But never smug.
Yes, in a very kind of self-effacing.
I mean, having used the Britpop example, I mean, smug is something that you wouldn't say Jarvis was.
No.
Whereas Damon Albarn, on the other hand, never stops. No. Anyway, carry on.
I found it interesting you talked about the Western theme.
Yeah.
Because I found a lot of, in particular the slower songs, very cinematic in the kind of use of orchestra. I would have said, rather than Western, I thought it was very French cinema.
Yes, yes.
There's a couple of songs that I almost feel could have been cover versions of like 60s French chanson songs that could have been rewritten slightly modern.
I think it's fair to say that the shadow of Jacques Brel hangs over an awful lot of slightly left field indie from the 90s.
Yes. That's not anything I would have said at the time, though.
No,
because when I listened to this, I would never have, which is another reason why I think listening back to these albums, especially ones we haven't heard from in a while, you kind of go, you have new influences to pick up from that you wouldn't have first time round.
Yeah. Yes, and I think since our own knowledge has grown, you pick up on a lot of these things a lot more. So, right.
Okay, so now we've talked about the album as a whole, let's go through the track list. So, the first song we have, I nearly said on side one, because I remember when I bought this in 1995, I bought it on cassette.
Lovely. As it should be.
So I always think of this as side one and side two.
Yeah.
Which is also very odd, because when I listened to this, it just went all the way through with no break kind of thing. Yeah. So the first song was one of their singles that they released, which is Misshapes.
Yes.
Which now
I thought Misshapes was a slightly odd choice for a single.
Yes.
I mean, it was a double A side with Sorted Freeze and Whiz.
Yes.
Which possibly made more sense.
Yes, I feel like this had that Jarvis naughtiness.
Yeah.
Kind of a bit rude, a bit kind of pointed. Yeah. Which is why I think possibly it lended itself as a single, because people liked buying that kind of thing. Yeah. If that makes sense.
And it's also quite a call to arms type of song, which all album openers need to be to an extent. So.
Another theme I found throughout this album is that Jarvis and his co-writers had, a lot of songs that had build-ups, which would then crash down and then kind of build up.
Yes.
This is used quite a lot.
Yeah.
In this song, where it would go through the chorus and then come back down again, and then start up again. But yeah, a bit of an odd single, but I can understand why it was chosen, really. Have you got anything in particular to say?
No, I think that's...
Okay, so second track was Pencil Skirt.
Mm-hmm.
Now, this is probably one of the ones people didn't really know about because it's just an album track. Yeah. Was this the first time you'd heard of this?
I think I had heard it before. It did sound vaguely familiar, but I obviously haven't heard it for a long time. So.
And what did you particularly think of this one?
I think I wrote down, perhaps this hasn't aged well.
No, it's very much the kind of voyeuristic. There's quite a few of those where you feel like Jarvis is stuck in somebody's wardrobe, looking through the keyhole, like something out of Adrian Mole,
but
or
I think
something.
That's more as a device based on sort of sitcom tropes of the time.
Yes.
It's not. I also wrote Leary Jarvis doesn't ever sound threatening.
No, he doesn't. No.
There's a difference between looking through longing eyes and looking through threatening eyes, which I think Jarvis always stays on the right side of.
Yeah, it always does feel a bit like the Jarvis character is wanting this to happen, but is also slightly scared.
Yeah, he's petrified of it actually happening. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right. Are we done on that one?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the next one is the big one. So is track 3, which is Common People.
Never heard of it.
The proper version.
Yeah. Well, so one of my notes I've written down is the radio edit should be illegal.
Yes, the radio edit should be illegal. The third verse is the most important verse.
Yeah.
Out of all of them. And this kind of, I think, keeps the momentum going. Because obviously you've had the big start.
Yeah.
You've had the kind of sorbet between your starter and your main course.
A palate cleanser.
You've had the palate cleanser, and now you're coming in with the big guns.
Yeah.
Interesting they didn't put this as track 1, which many people would have done. Kind of get the big one out the way. But I think it's almost like you needed something to lead up to it to get excited about.
Yes, yeah. I don't think it screams an album opener.
No,
at me.
no.
It is. Yes, it was always going to be the big song on the album.
Yeah.
But I don't think it was ever going to be something they were going to open the album with, because then you've got the problem of how on earth do you top that?
Yes.
So yeah, I think the run of the first 3 songs I think works very well, because it's representing that sort of rise and fall as you spoke about with that. So yeah.
And obviously it's the most famous Pulp song probably of all time.
Yeah, it's Jarvis's pension plan.
Yeah. I think the others had a hand in it as well.
Oh yeah. But, it's
yes,
the band's pension plan.
Yes,
my apologies,
definitely.
Yes.
I mean, it is a very, very good song,
and
has a lot of those things that we've talked about previously. Yeah, with the kind of the wit and the kind of, I don't know, social commentary. And
well, it's one of the best pieces of social observation I think that has ever been done in pop music. And
again, he's not really rude about it.
No.
Like, he's not really rude about the girl.
No.
He's talking about, and he's not really being bad down on himself. He's just explaining.
It's a commentary on the aloofness of somebody who's trying to experience something that they can never truly experience.
Yes.
So it's it is beautifully achieved as as that end.
Right. So after Common People,
Yeah.
we have I Spy.
Mm-hmm.
Now, had you ever heard this one before?
I don't believe so.
Okay. So what did you think of I Spy?
So I wrote down that I felt like it was about to erupt into something Mediterranean. And this was where I first noted down about sounding like something Western, or at least Western in style. The song I'd written down was Blazing Saddles by Yellow, which is one of their sort of expansive Western songs.
Okay.
And I also wrote underneath Jacques Brel influence.
Well, yes. I mean, as I said, it's got definitely that French. I don't know whether it's his delivery as well. The fact he has that slightly, not whisper, but he has that kind of talky, singy, talky
stream of consciousness-y stuff, isn't it? Yeah.
And it has that kind of drifts in and out, and it's got that nice bass to it. It's quite a long. We've got quite a lot of long songs on this album because we've just had Common People just under 6 minutes, and then we have I Spy, which also comes in just over 6 minutes.
Yeah.
Did you feel like any of those were too long, or was it quite nice listening to something that wasn't stupidly short TikTok style?
You see, I don't have a problem with long songs unless you're not achieving something in that time.
Yeah.
If you have something to say and you have a picture you want to finish painting, then by all means make it a longer song.
Yeah.
But, I certainly don't have a. I don't think any of the songs on here were overlong. I think some of the ideas perhaps did stretch a little bit further than they could have. But yeah, I don't have any great anger about that.
And then straight after I Spy, we go into another big song, which is Disco 2000, which is probably their second most known song, even if it does borrow quite a lot from Umberto Tozzi's Gloria.
Now, I do remember...
Gloria, Gloria, Gloria.
Which is known in the UK, obviously, as Laura Branigan's Gloria.
But we know it as Eurovision's Umberto Tozzi's.
Oh, right. Oh God, here we go. There's the E word. I thought we were doing too well.
Go on.
I do recall, even at the time this was out, Leon Herring did a piss take of this on their Radio 1 show that they had at the time.
Yes.
Now, I cannot honestly remember what the song was that they made reference to. I'm guessing it probably
was this.
Was that, so...
I don't know whether they got done for it or they put him on the... or whether it was... so it was far enough away.
Yeah.
But
I mean, there were quite a lot of things around this period that were very close to other things, whilst not quite getting sued for.
Yeah, kind of clever enough. People don't seem clever enough now to steal...
Well, the problem is...
or people are too trigger happy to go, your song says in my song, let's make the money.
Well, the problem is now, particularly if you look at the Blurred Lines case, that even if something sounds a bit like something else, you can apparently be sued for that now.
Yeah, but it was a rubbish song.
Well, I know, but... I mean, in that case, then pretty much every song in the top 40 people could get sued for, because they all sound the same.
They all have a C in them.
They all have a C?
Yeah, you know, the C key.
Oh, okay.
So they're all the same.
Okay.
Right. Okay, so after Disco 2000, we have Live Bed Show.
Which I didn't make any notes about.
Well.
I have to be honest, it didn't... I think it was after I Spy, I thought... This is possibly the only occasion where I felt we might be retreading some similar ground.
Yes,
here.
This then goes back to the kind of voyeuristic, but I think this this is now from a slightly different perspective, because you get the feeling he's talking about somebody who's maybe doing something for money.
Yeah.
And doing it from that perspective rather than a young boy looking at something through a keyhole or something. It does go into that kind of cinematic style again.
Yeah.
It kind of floats in and out. It's not a particularly noticeable song. Especially because it is in between some very long songs, which kind of overshadow it.
Yeah.
A little bit, but I mean it kind of is a bit of a, I guess, another cleanser between going into one thing, because this would have been, I think, the last song on
End of side one.
So it's kind of like the end of act the
one.
end of this one.
Please go to the bar.
Yeah,
recharge
ready
your glasses
yourself for the next part.
Grab a bag of nuts.
Yeah, go and get the show magazine.
The program.
The program,
and a box of fruit pastels for the second movement.
Yes,
which opens with.
Something changed.
Something changed.
Well, that was literally on Top of the Pops.
It was on
the other
BBC
day.
4. Yeah.
This obviously was a double A side.
Yeah.
I think this one gets a bit more forgotten because it is one of the slower songs.
Yes. I mean, if you ask people to tell you 3 Pulp songs.
Yes.
I feel that for a top 10 single, this is probably one that would not come up very often.
No, it would be on the lower side on the pointless scale.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, it's thematically, it is very similar to a lot that we've had.
Yes.
And I guess because it's not quite as punchy, maybe, compared to some of the other singles, it's kind of maybe seen as quite safe.
Yeah, I think it's telling quite an intricate story.
Yes.
And interestingly, we've been to see Inside Out 2 at the cinema today, which is not telling a dissimilar story, is it? Although in very different circumstances, yes. But it is a relatively universal experience, which, I think is not particularly well documented.
Yeah, so. It's I guess it's quite written in a slightly I don't really know how to. It's written in a kind of nice perspective.
Yeah.
It's not, it's not like, could have been, and then it's jealousy and rage, and it's just very kind of matter of fact.
Yeah.
It's almost emotionless.
I don't think I'd go that
well,
far.
maybe not. But maybe that's a.
It's not written emotively.
Yes, that's probably a better way.
But it's. I think there's still a lot of attachment to the experience going through that. So, yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Right. Then we have another song that was a single.
Yeah.
Which is Sorted for Ease and Whiz.
Mm-hmm.
So, Jarvis being a little bit naughty again.
Well, not really.
Well.
No naughtier than the Shaman were.
Well, no. But obviously had that... not theatre. Festival feel to it. Obviously they had that moment at the Glastonbury Festival. I don't know whether that was 95 or 96.
I think that was 96.
So this kind of preempted almost.
Yeah.
Their kind of accession to festival royalty.
But it's also doing quite a lot of debunking of the later period of the rave era as well.
Yes.
Because obviously the festival culture that we have now grew more than anything out of the rave scene of the early 90s. And when that got shut down, festivals began to start taking an interest in electronic music as well. And there's also quite a lot of commentary on there with regard to the culture of the rave scene.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people will tell you that, oh man, it was all love, we were all mates, everyone was looking out for each other.
No, they weren't.
It's bollocks, frankly.
Well, you might, if you had a good mate who wasn't off their head as well, that looked after you, you'd be fine. But otherwise,
it's quite a good anti-nostalgia to other commentaries on that scene.
You feel like with a title like that it's going to go down one route. Yeah. And it doesn't.
No. I think it also issues quite a good forewarning of what has come to pass in the sort of more laddie, I don't give a fuck, mate, culture.
Yeah.
And I think that is never more prescient than at the moment, because I think there's so much of that attitude goes on, which I think was foreseen by this very well.
Okay, so we go to track 9, which is Feeling Called Love.
I think you'll actually find it's called FeelingCalledLove with lots of full stops.
Yes.
You see, I think this takes something from the orchestration of Bostitch by Yellow.
Oh.
I think Jarvis had been listening to some...
Maybe.
Or the band had been listening to Yellow when they were
possibly
recording this.
Okay.
I find a lot of callbacks to things from there. Or perhaps it's just that's what I was thinking of.
Maybe. So what do you think about this? What did you write about this one?
That was the main thing I wrote about it. Okay. The orchestration feels like it has come from sort of an industrial western kind of...
Yes. There's a lot of bombast in the chorus, which then kind of morphs into something else. Now, this is the longer song on the album.
Oh, I haven't
and
spotted
at times I feel like it feels it.
Yeah.
It's a decent idea that could have been several minutes shorter.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it's a bad song. I just feel like the intro in particular goes on for a very long time.
Yes, yeah.
And, you know, maybe he just had something, the band had something they just wanted to experiment with.
We were waiting for the kettle to boil.
Yes.
And we were going out into the kitchen and thinking, why is this taking so long? And then realised that we hadn't plugged it in.
Yeah.
And I've just realised I'm going more John Shuttleworth by the minute.
John, you should come round next door and get the kettle on there.
So, yeah, I don't really have too much to say about that because there's a little in a very long song.
Yes, yeah, it is something I could understand why you have that viewpoint about it. So,
okay, so we're on the end here. So track 10 is Underwear.
Like several of the other songs, this feels to me like it has grown lyrically from a single experience.
Yes, you. I can imagine that teenage boys around Britain would listen to this song going, yes, I want that to be me.
Yeah.
And again, it's not done in a lewd way.
No.
And it's not done in a rude way, which does prove that you can have these kind of fantasies almost without being OTT. And having swears and sexual protestations in
modern
them.
pop music has far too much swearing in it.
Yes.
Because it's just used effectively as punctuation now.
It's I can't think of anything else to say.
Yeah.
So I'll just go or bitch or fuck or something.
I also wrote down, I can't help wondering if Juvenile Jarvis would feel the same about underwear now with the cast of various Love Islands trotting round in their pants all the time.
I do you know what? I bet not. Because I think, pardon me, I think, what was I going to say? Less is more. No, more is less sometimes.
More leaves more to the imagination.
Yes, that's what that's what I meant. Whilst, because he wants to see them in their underwear because you don't see them.
Yeah. Whereas now everyone's got their arse hanging out. And, yeah, and you can
their toots everywhere.
You can marvel at their shit tattoos.
And that's men and women.
Oh God,
let's be
yes,
honest. Yeah. So yes, right.
Moving on.
So the penultimate song is Monday Morning. Now this is a slightly interesting song because it goes a bit ska.
Yes.
In the middle.
I wrote down dramatic flamenco ska arrangement.
Yes.
Which I really enjoyed.
Yes. I'd kind of forgotten about that, I have to say. I was like, I don't remember this being like this, but yeah.
Again, I think it's one of those cues that with more knowledge and more experience of listening to different sorts of music, it's something you pick up on.
Yeah.
Whereas previously you might have thought, oh, that's there, and that sounds like that.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, it's quite an interesting song, and obviously it's about kind of, well, obviously, what is it, Monday morning?
Yeah.
So it's obviously about, like, putting away the weekend on a Sunday and having to get up with the same old dross on a Monday morning, which a lot of people also would have resonated with, whether that be work or school or the humdrum of everyday life that Jarvis was very good at talking about.
Yes, yeah. I think it also makes an interesting counterpoint to Common People as well.
Yes.
That was very much somebody on the outside of a community looking in on it.
Yes.
Whereas this is looking around that community
when you're in it.
Yeah, from a different viewpoint. So, yeah.
Yes. Go and listen to those two songs next to each other then.
Yeah, yeah.
Right. And then finally we have
You say finally. I'm going to bring something else up afterwards. Anyway, carry on.
Bar Italia.
Yes.
Now, I think this is quite a nice song because it kind of has it kind of has an ending.
Yes.
However, I am disappointed by the ending.
Okay.
I would have liked some. Even I like the way it like peters out at the end.
Yeah.
Which I don't mind. I would have liked to have had something that had a bit more. A bit like The Day in the Life by the Beatles.
Yeah, yeah.
Something a bit more, we're going to build it up to something and really let go.
But I think you also have to question how many bands recording their 5th or 6th album would be thinking, this is the one that's going to be our really big one, and we need to give it a proper anthemic grandstand finish to it.
Maybe. Go on.
So,
what did you have?
Well, I said it has an almost shambolic pub karaoke feel.
Yes.
And I think the end of it represents a come down after.
Yes.
After the rest of the album, so I can understand why. I'd also like to add on.
Okay.
I believe PTA was the B-side to Common People.
Possibly.
Which is on the deluxe version.
Oh, right, okay.
And I think that should have been on this album. Because it's a lot of fun and it's very enjoyable.
Oh, right, okay.
Obviously, it has a difference in that it's not outwardly about adolescence.
No.
and that sort of experience, but it is a lot of fun as a song. So
Okay.
I'll nominate that there
Okay.
for why you should go out and buy the deluxe edition.
All right.
So
Final two questions then. Number one, do you have a favourite tune from the album?
well, that's because we hear the full length version of it so infrequently
Yeah.
on the radio. It's probably Common People, because
Yeah.
I think as a piece of social commentary and
Yes.
pretty much as a piece of poetry,
Yeah.
it is fantastic.
Yeah.
And I do really love Disco 2000 as
Mm-hmm.
well. Obviously, it's the two big pop singles off the album, and it's probably the two that we've heard the most.
Yeah.
But I would struggle to find fault with either of those.
Okay.
Your turn.
I would say, I'm going to be really controversial here. I would say possibly my favourite song. Well, when I listened to it, the one song where I went, oh yeah, I remember this one and I really like it, was I Spy.
Oh, right, okay.
I think it's very different
Yeah,
to it. This is the slightly hidden side of Pulp
yeah,
that a lot of people wouldn't have seen behind the kind of acerbic social commentary, full frontal Pulp
Yeah.
that you got.
yeah,
That they could do something that was slightly more gentle.
yeah,
And as I said, it had that kind of French cinema
yeah.
lounge. I could imagine some people smoking cigarettes on a chaise lounge,
Right.
kind of
But not
strolling
wet leg.
about.
Not
yeah,
wet
not
leg.
when they're, and then like standing up and doing a turn.
Yeah. It's a song of longing, isn't
Yes.
it? Rather than a
Yes.
song of realisation.
Now the last question before you take over
Right.
is, now that you've listened to this, what where would you listen to other stuff, or has this reminded you of other things that would you go back and listen to older Pulp, or would you go and do the next one, or would you go and I don't know, go and go, oh, it reminded me of menswear or something bizarre?
I think if I were to go any further, it would probably be to go and revisit His and Hers, the album that preceded this one. Because obviously that's where they started breaking through and having
that was
success
like
off it.
the small breakthrough.
Yeah. And I think it's a good job that they followed that up fairly quickly with this album.
Yes.
So that obviously they gained momentum with that. But I think that's the direction I would go in if I were going to go and chase more up.
Yeah, definitely. So. I would. There were a lot of Britpop bands around this time. I know I said menswear.
Yeah.
Marion.
Yeah.
They were. What's the word? I'm really
huge for 30 seconds.
Yeah, they were. Jean.
Yes.
Obviously, if you're really into Morrissey, you would have loved Jean.
I do like Jean's second
Jean's,
album.
yeah. They did have some good stuff, did Jean?
Yeah.
But there were just so many of them.
Yeah.
In a very small pocket.
Yeah.
And only some survived.
Yes.
And possibly the Blue Tones.
Yeah.
Is something that's like the southern version
of
Pulp.
Okay.
I think.
Yeah.
Although he does need to take that coat off because he won't feel the benefit when he goes outside.
That's another Britpop thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
We're all going on stage wearing our coats, isn't it?
So you enjoyed listening to the album?
I certainly didn't dislike it.
Thank goodness for that. It wasn't
go.
in vain. Right. So I chose the last album.
Yes.
So what album are we going to review for the next podcast.
Do you know? I'm still trying to choose because I've got about 4 in mind.
Well, if you've got 4, then you've got the next 4 months padded out.
You say that, but they might be coming from
The same
similar place. And I'm wondering whether to go for an album that I know inside out, but you possibly don't know as well. Or whether to go for something that I know I've listened to a few times.
Well, it's up to you.
Yeah. I think we will go for the album Victory by Dan.
Oh, right! Okay. So do you want to... There might be a lot of people listening who are going, Dan?
Yeah.
So that's
D-A-A-N.
Right, okay.
Dan Stuyven, he's a Flemish Belgian who now mainly lives in France, I think, at Manet.
Don't give us address.
Sorry, no, not France, in the French part of Belgium.
Oh, right.
But no, he had an album called it, so it's hardly a secret.
Oh, right, okay.
He was part of the scene that erupted in the late 90s in Belgium, which basically is still running now. There's an awful lot of people from that. It went on to form bands like Soulwax, and Deus came out of the same movement as well. Mm-hmm. And he was originally part of a band called Dead Man Ray, but then went on to do loads of solo albums, and he's got a new album out this autumn. So Victory is probably the album of his that I've connected with the best.
Okay.
So I shall revisit that and give that another listen.
Okay, what year?
So that was released in 2004.
Okay, so it's 20 years old.
It really doesn't feel like it.
Okay.
But had a few songs on it which have remained quite popular, particularly in Belgium. So, yeah, that's where I'll go with that one.
So, if you want to join in as well at home, you can find Dan's Victory, because of course you've got that in your on your shelf, haven't you, people at home?
Well, I was just one. Oh no, it is on Spotify.
Oh, excellent.
So it is on there.
So whether you've got it on your shelf, on your vinyl shelf, your hipster vinyl shelf, or
I think it did get reissued on vinyl a couple of years ago.
Possibly, or you can just find it on whatever streaming service you prefer, and you can come back next time and see what we think. And of course, if you listened to Pulp as well, you can tell us what you think. You can find us at Albumble on Twitter.
Oh, are we?
Yeah.
Oh, crikey.
And hopefully soon we should be on Spotify.
Oh, lovely.
Ooh, so you can find us there, or on the old website thing, which I've forgotten. I can't remember what it's called. That's good, isn't it? Okay. So if you like us, tell your friends, and get in touch. Tell us what you think of Pulp's Different Class, or what you think of Dan's Victory. Mm-hmm. Right. Should we say goodbye?
Yeah. Oh, are we having to do the happy?
Well, no, we don't need to do that.
Happy album listening.
Happy albumin.
Happy
albuming. No.
Happy bumming on your streaming cervix.
Oh no, you have to bring it down.